Welcome to the 10-Minute Life Coaching Program, presented by me, Jay Cleveland Payne, one of the peak performance advisors from Fast Forward Business Properties. In the span of about 10 minutes, I'm going to present to you a show filled with a few ideas that I believe will help you improve your business and your personal lives. I'm also going to let you help me keep me on track by giving some details on some features and programs that we have working in production. In today's show, we're going to show you just how easy it is to say you're sorry and mean it. And to prove this, I'm going to use this podcast as an apology to a friend who felt slighted by some of the points I poorly tried to make in last week's podcast. So let's start the clock and get to work. Expanding on the theme I used in the Oh, by the way newsletter dated August 5th, this week is all about saying you're sorry and, of course, meaning it when you say it. First, an apology to you, the listeners of this podcast, for putting out a subpar episode. I always say that you have to have a few bad days to truly appreciate when a great one comes along. That doesn't mean you have to fall in love with the bad days in the process. As always, we try to put out a great show, but last week, despite what we tried to put out, it just didn't work out to the best. But the bulk of this podcast apology goes to one of my good friends and a great supporter of all my efforts. She just happens to be a salesperson I work with daily, and a very good one at that. I painted a pretty solid picture of how the troubled children in sales that I work with tend to operate as a description of how small fibs can grow into larger fishtails for last week's show. She happens to be nothing like what I described last week, and she took serious offense. And even though very few of you could probably pick out my place of employment from the details of the podcast, she and a few other salespeople obviously could. Collectively, they were not thrilled by their portrayal. My friend was actually highly upset. That is the only way I can describe her feelings without using the long string of curse words she actually used to describe her feelings when she told me herself. She got a big apology from me last week, and the start of a bigger apology by being the focus of the quick lesson apology in the Oh, by the way newsletter. As I continue this apology here, I will show you the fine art of crafting and delivering a sincere apology. We start by offering up this rule of thumb for offering an apology for any circumstance. If you don't feel sorry for what you've done, you shouldn't be apologizing. Barring the loss of a job or the ending of a serious relationship, if the apology is a lie, don't lie. It might not even be worth saving the job or the relationship to apologize if you don't mean it as well. If you happen to be dealing with a longer or more serious relationship, such as a marriage, you know that this rule is often trumped for the sake of saving face and ending an argument. But the art of this type of apology is a lesson for a future time. We're dealing with a situation where we are assuming that whatever you did actually did do someone wrong. So let's start with just being sincere. Sincerity should be the easiest part of the apology, although it can be ruined by the delivery. If you're following the rule of thumb about actually feeling sorry about the outcome of what was said or done, then you should be sincere. You shouldn't have to fake anything. Using me as an example, the problem wasn't so much I gave a description of a bad salesperson to use as a guide for the rest of the podcast. It was the painting of all the salespeople that I work with as a carbon copy of a bad salesperson, and the fact that some salespeople that didn't fit that mold heard it and got upset. Yes, part of the problem was more about getting caught than committing the act, but damage was done, and I did truly feel sorry for it. I upset some people who didn't need to be upset, so my emotions fall in line with being sincere in wanting to apologize and try to make it up to them. Now, for the hard part of your apology, now we get to deal with the delivery. The delivery covers the word, actions, and demeanor used in getting across the message that you are actually sorry. If you want the person you're apologizing to actually believe you, it's going to take a little more than just mumbling, "I'm sorry," under your breath. Here are the 5 steps to follow to deliver a proper and effective apology. Step number 1 is to make sure to make it genuine. We've already stated how important it is for you to mean what you say. If you're not feeling it, if the words and actions are not coming straight from the heart, they shouldn't be coming out of your mouth, period. Step number 2 is to make sure you don't justify your actions. Trying to explain away what you did will make your apology sound less like a genuine apology and more like a concession that you have been forced to make. If you must give an explanation, be brief and make sure it doesn't sound like a cop-out. Step number 3 is to commit to changing your behavior. Now, you are apologizing because something you did caused a problem. If you can't convince the person who's supposed to accept your apology that you intend to improve the way you handle yourself in the future, then why should they accept your apology right now? Make sure your apology is not hollow. Step number 4 is to choose the words of your apology very carefully. The person you are apologizing to should know from the words that they hear that you're actually apologizing to them. Don't just wing it. Choose the words you speak very carefully. Not only could you not get the right message across, you can say something to make the situation even worse. Step number 5 is to be prepared for things to be a little awkward when it's over. Your apology may be immediately accepted, or it may not be. You may choose to quickly apologize for what you've done wrong, but it is not up to you how long it takes for the apology to be accepted, if it even is accepted. A cold reception may be your immediate reward for a heartfelt apology, and if it is, it's up to time to heal the wound that will lead to a renewed relationship. You've done all that you can with the sincere apology you've given. Your ability to make an apology is not affected by you being right or wrong, nor by the inability of others to step up and apologize themselves to you. If the person slighted is perceived as being wronged, then they have been wronged. Your apology may not make it right, but it is a step in the right direction. Hopefully, this lesson on giving an apology will help me in my personal apology to my very good friend. That puts a wrap on the main theme for this week. If you like the advice given or the words of the advisor giving the advice, why don't you consider a more serious investment into your personal improvement journey, into yourself, or maybe your business? If you are ready, we are ready to help you out with some serious one-on-one work with one of our peak performance advisors. We can set up for regular phone coaching sessions, and the good news is no long-term commitment is necessary. We are here for you as long as you need us to be here for you. For more information on this program, just send us an email to ppadvisors, ADVISORS @att.net. So I'll give you this week's advice, and I've asked you to make an upgrade. This is the point where I've let you, the listeners, hold my feet to the fire on upcoming projects that sometimes we get a little lax in getting completed. We call this segment the accountability on me because it's you keeping me accountable. And it doesn't matter whether this is your first time in or you've been with us for a while. Anyone listen to the podcast and any of their ideas are equally weighed. But maybe not for long. The reason I created this segment was to counteract a common pet peeve I have when I listen to other podcasts. Most personal development and lifestyle improvement podcasts tend to work because the host or the hosts come across as real people. But part of their process means they have to do some behind the scenes or some housekeeping talk to keep you up to date with them and their progress. And that usually happens at the beginning of the podcast before the meat of the lesson begins. Some of the more seasoned hosts have a way to balance out their housekeeping most of the time, and some can't, and the newer hosts have serious problems with sounding like sales pitches that can make a listener turn off the audio and miss a good lesson. And some are just plain boring. That is why I deliberately open up every one of my podcasts with the main lesson of the podcast, and then do the sales pitch, and then my housekeeping, more or less right here, and accountability on me. But while not the most difficult pieces of the podcast, I want to make sure that it is effective. We have gotten some great feedback from our survey we conducted a few weeks ago, but we didn't get all thumbs up on the accountability on me segment. We are definitely open to changes, and if we find this segment is not working out so well, we will do what we need to make it more effective, or we're going to go ahead and get rid of it. So for next week, we're celebrating the fact that we've made it so far by working hard to make sure we're still giving you the right information in this podcast. After some soul searching in the main lesson and some strategic retooling we've been working on in the past few weeks, you'll soon see some more big changes to the 10-Minute Life Coaching Podcast. But we still need to know what's working, and we only know what's working from hearing from you. So make sure you find a way to make contact with us that lets us know that if the tweaks we've made so far are working and what we need to work on for the future. As always, you are free to send me encouragement, ridicule, questions about my general sanity, whatever you like, via comments on the website or via email at 10minutelifecoach@att.net. And that's a wrap for this week's program. I'm Jay Cleveland Payne, and thank you so much for listening to the 10-Minute Life Coaching Program. More information on this show, its online home can be found at 10minutelifecoach.com. Information on personal one-on-one sessions with one of our peak performance advisors that includes both coaching and some email homework back and forth is very simple to get signed up for that. Send us an email to ppadvisors, ADVISORS, @att.net. Next week on the 10-Minute Life Coach Podcast, I'll present some more ideas and tips to help you get your business and personal life in order for absolutely no monetary charge. All I'm asking of you is about 10 minutes of your time. Until then, I say again, thank you.